There are all kinds of love in this world. Sweet, wholesome, daring, and sometimes more lustful and selfish. But it can also be a freak of nature that can make anyone feel goosebumps. When love transcends even the inevitable end of life, who's to say that it's not allowed? Our story starts with Nak, alone in the house and fully pregnant. She's about to give birth, but the nearest house is at least a mile away, and no one hears her cries and whimpers in the middle of the night. She just has to be brave and face this challenge alone. Her husband, Mac, is at war. He's injured and is brought inside their medical tent to be treated. There, other soldiers like D3ad and Shin are also recovering from their wounds. They desperately want to come home. This war means nothing to them, and they have their lives to live. D3ad stands up to inspire them to continue, or at least he tries. Regardless, they all go back to the war zone. Despite being heavily injured, Mac swears to return home to his wife, no matter what. He carries the survivors back to the safe place, even though they're all bombarded by mines and grenades. Eventually, after a grueling experience in the war zone, they are all permitted to go home. D3ad and Shin offer to bring Mac home in return for saving them. Mac is happy about this and is excited to come home. His wounds still hurt at times, but the prospect of seeing his family again makes it bearable. Back in his hometown, Nak carries their baby and stands at the small dock near their house. She doesn't know yet that Mac is coming home. She calls out his name, with a sorrowful tone that echoes around. For some reason, the villagers who hear this shut themselves inside their houses. They shut all their doors and windows, and hope that they won't hear her voice anymore. Because of this, the village looks like a ghost town when Mac and the others arrive there by boat. It makes them worry that something may have happened while they were away. But everything seems to be in order when they arrive at Mac's hut that night. He enters, expecting to see the baby. However, the cradle is empty. He gets surprised when his wife hugs him from behind. Nak is so relieved and happy to see her husband again. Mac feels the same. He hugs her tight, letting her know how much he misses her. He acts childish in front of Nak, but there's no denying his genuine feelings for her. Nak assures him she loves him. Then she shows him their baby, which she named Dang, Mac's favorite name. Tur and others hear the couple's conversation as they wait outside. A couple of minutes later, Mac introduces his wife to them. They all find Nak very beautiful. Who wouldn't? She's tall and slender, her skin looks smooth, and has long straight hair. She's the ideal type of any man, so they think that Mac is really lucky to have married her. Mac offers them the empty hut where his late aunt used to live. It's located across his house, and there's an extra boat for them to use to get there. They can stay there until the war ends. Mac doesn't see his wife's worried face when he offers it. When they're finally alone, the couple sits outside, happy to be spending time with each other. Nak says she's waited for him at the dock almost every day. Mac assures her that he'll never leave her from then on. Then Nak tricks him about ghosts, making him feel scared easily. Mac is afraid of ghosts, which makes her hesitant. He brings out a Buddha amulet, given to him back when his wounds were tended. Nak says he should keep it away for now, so she can clean it for him. Later on, Nak puts their baby into the cradle and sings a lullaby. Her soft, innocent voice is heard all over the village that night, making them shiver with fear. The next day, Mac goes to the hut across the river to wake his friends up. He plans to find all of them a job at the market. As they stretch their sleepiness away, they see another boat passing by. It contains the corpses of soldiers from the war. The man rowing the boat tells them that the cemetery is already full, so he's bringing these corpses back to their families for burial. Tur and Mac feel both sad and relieved, because it could have been their bodies lying lifeless on that boat. To shake this depressing feeling off, they head to the village market. It's bustling with people trading their goods with each other. The five of them appreciate that they get to experience something as normal as this, after the war. Mac sees an old acquaintance selling sweets. He wants to buy from her. But the woman, upon seeing Mac, becomes terrified. She upends all her circular baskets and leaves. The five friends are bewildered by her behavior. The same thing happens when Mac approaches another acquaintance who sells fish. He refuses to sell them to Mac, and instead lets the animals go. Brushing off these weird encounters, Mac goes on until he arrives at Andy Preek's shop. Andy Preek is a middle-aged drunk lady. There's no surprise there, as she sells wine and other alcoholic beverages. Mac asks if they can get a job at her shop, to which she replies there's no more vacancy. Then she recognizes him. Immediately, her drunken stupor is replaced by agitation and terror. She asks Mac if he doesn't know about his wife Nak. When he shakes his head, Andy Preek tells him that he must bend down and look between his legs, then he'll see. But whatever it is, Mac doesn't know, because Ping, Andy Preek's son, covers her mouth and drags her inside the house. He refuses to elaborate further on her mother's words. That night, D3ad and Shin discuss what happened that day. Shin is disturbed, because he remembers what his mother used to tell him. If someone bends down and looks between their legs, they'll definitely see a ghost. And since Andy Preek mentioned Nak's name, it sounds like she's insinuating that Nak's a ghost. The four friends think it's unbelievable. They order Shin to row to Mac's hut and ask him to join them. Even though he's scared, he goes. It looks like the house is empty, so Shin is relieved to see Nak sitting by the cradle. Nak smiles at him and says she'll wake her husband up. But when she turns around, she stops moving, and blood suddenly drips down her legs. Without warning, a bloody fetus falls out of her. Shin wakes up from this nightmare and immediately tells his friends what he saw. But they're already tipsy. They ask him to go and get Mac to join them. Shin doesn't want to, but he has no choice. Everything in his nightmare happens the same way in real life, except when he gets into the hut. The place looks run down and abandoned, as if no one has been living there for a long time. Could Mac be a lazy person and just didn't want to clean? Or could there be something more sinister behind this? He sees the cradle move on its own, despite not having any breeze blowing. Terrified, he runs back to the boat. Before he leaves, he sees an elongated hand picking up a fallen apple. He rows back to Tur and the others and tells them that Nak is a ghost. Understandably, no one believes him. The friends continue their merrymaking, unaware that the lifeless body of Auntie Preek is floating along the river. The next morning, the four friends decide to help Mac clean his backyard, as several branches of trees and banana leaves are scattered everywhere. Shin is still afraid from last night's encounter. Tur takes matters into his own hands and checks the truth. He quietly walks behind Nak, who's preparing food in the kitchen. He crouches down and looks between her legs. He looks like a pervert doing this, which would get him cancelled right away if he does this in modern times. Nak senses him and looks suspiciously at him. Tur makes an excuse about looking for an axe. He goes back to Shin and chides him about making wrong accusations. Nak is completely human, so Shin must stop making stories up. Then Tur goes towards the back of the house to relieve himself. To his horror, he finds a shallow grave where the head of a decomposing body is visible. A bony hand is also visible, wearing a ruby ring that glints in the daylight. Terrified, Tur runs back to his friends. In doing so, he accidentally knocks a beehive. The disturbed bees swarm his face and give him multiple stings that cause his face to get swollen. When he gets back to his friends, he can only grunt and whimper as he tries to communicate what he saw. Frustrated, Tur looks for a pen and paper and writes down the words, "Nak is a ghost." Puek and others are horrified at this. Just in time, Mac appears and asks them what they have in their hands. Thunder also starts to crack above them, and rain has begun to fall. Raindrops have already blotted the paper when Mac grabs it from his friends, but he can still read what's written there. And the truth upsets him. Tur and others row back to their hut and pack their things. They don't want to stay any longer in a place that's near a ghost. The swelling on Tur's face has already subsided, allowing him to tell them that he saw a decaying body buried at the back of the house, wearing a ruby ring. Everyone looks taken aback by this, especially Yi. This confirms Shin's suspicions that Nak is a ghost. Mac enters his hut and confronts Nak about the thing written on the paper. He reminds his wife that they promised to be honest with each other. Nak is distressed, saying she didn't know how to tell him. Mac says she shouldn't be ashamed of it, especially since he also used to be like that. Nak is confused about what her husband is talking about. It turns out what he read on the blotted paper is, Nak is gross, which, understandably, could make anyone upset if it's true. Tur and his friends also realize what Mac must have read on the paper, and that's why they see the couple all lovey-dovey again. In addition, Shin scolds Tur because he did the crouching thing the wrong way. He's supposed to look between his own legs, not Nak's legs. Anyway, it still doesn't hide the fact that a buried body was found behind the hut. They need to get to the bottom of this mystery and save their friend from being in a relationship with a ghost. That night, Tur and Shin set out to save their friend. Puek and Yi are left behind to make sure they have an escape route. But things change when they find Ping knocking on their door. He asks them if they can help in slaughtering a cow. Since Ping is crying, they think he's mourning about his pet cow getting slaughtered for food. But Ping corrects them, saying it's for a funeral offer, because his mother passed away that morning. He accuses Nak of ending his mother's life, since she mentioned her name at the market the other day. Puek and Yi become concerned about their friends and immediately follow after them. When they get to Mac's hut, they tell Tur and Shin about Auntie Preek's passing. Terrified, they all change their minds about saving Mac, and instead choose to leave. But to their surprise, Nak invites them to dinner. Whether they're curious about what a ghost can prepare for dinner, or because Nak is looking daggers at them, the four friends climb up to Mac's hut. It's what Shin said last night. The house looks run down. A low table has been set for their dinner. There are bowls filled with all varieties of dried leaves, and some even have maggots in them. A dinner full of protein and fiber, which is good for health. They would have been appreciative of Nak's gesture, if only they weren't terrified out of their wits. They pretend to eat what's in front of them, which makes Mac happy and satisfied. He even brings out his son Dang, so they can appreciate him. One can only wonder if Mac's intentionally oblivious to his friend's discomfort, or if he's simply an idiot. The four friends keep pointing and gesturing at each other, which makes Mac think they want to play charades. So after putting away the dinner table, they start to play the game. Shin is the first one to play, and the phrase he picks is, "a spear beside the bed," which means danger nearby. Two things become apparent during the game. First, the phrase can easily refer to Nak, and what she really is. Second, Mac is terrible at charades. Tur is the next one to act out a phrase. The word he picks is dessert, which he decides to divide into 2 syllables. He points at Nak for dead, then to his shirt for shirt. Put together, they sound like dessert. Shin guesses right, and even explains how he guessed it. But Tur, Puek, and E are panicking because they just revealed to Mac the truth about his wife. They immediately run out of the hut and get on their boat. However, Nak follows them up until the dock and asks if she can have her turn. The four men have no choice but to let her, mainly because their boat keeps going back to the dock. She says the acronym, MYOB. The four men are all shivering in fear as they realize Nak means mind your own business. Later on, Mac confronts his friends about their attitude towards his wife. They're no different than the villagers, who keep saying Nak has already passed away. He knows about Ping and his mother because of what Nak revealed to him. While they were at war, Ping used to seduce Nak. But she refused all his advances, staying loyal to her husband. Because of this, Ping got angry and started spreading malicious rumors about her. Mac defends his wife. He says she's not a ghost, and if they keep on insisting, they better get out of his house. Much later, he returns to his wife, his face and body full of mud. He tells Nak that he's evicted his friends. It's better that way, if they keep disrespecting her. Nak appreciates the gesture, although she's worried about how long she can keep her secret from Mac. A few days later, the couple attends a fair within the village. Nak wears a mask because she thinks it's funny. They buy sweet rice cakes shaped into a man and a woman. Nak pulls the arm of her rice cake and puts it on Max, indicating that she'll always reach out for him. The couple spends good quality time together by playing games and sharing cotton candy. Then they decide to ride the Ferris wheel. There's a long queue of people waiting for their turn. But as soon as Nak removes her mask, the people disperse just to get away from her. As they ride it, Nak asks her husband a question. Can he live alone if she passes away? It's an odd question for Mac, but she insists on him answering it, because they'll never know what can happen in the future. Truthfully, Mac says he can't live without her. He'd rather go first than live alone without her. As much as his answer flatters her, Nak is worried about her husband and his future. She wonders how Mac will react once he finds out the truth about her. After their ride, they enter a haunted house. Of course, the ghosts inside are all paid actors. But once they see Nak, they run away in terror. Meanwhile, Tur, Puek, and Shin see their friend and his wife enter the haunted house. They have to find a way to separate them, so they can talk their friend out of it. Tur has brought holy rice, so they should be safe. E arrives late due to stomach problems. But now that they're complete, they carry out their plan. They kidnap Mac when his wife is not looking. However, the door of the house won't open. With no other choice, they tie up the other ghost actors and pretend to be staff. They attempt to scare Nak, but how can they scare a ghost? For a moment, they are able to fool her and make a run for it. But before they can even reach the exit, she finds them. Tur tries to grab some holy rice to throw onto her. But her hand suddenly elongates and reaches out to him. Scared out of their minds, they run through one of the walls of the house and proceed to the forest nearby. Once they think they're safe, they untie Mac. Mac is pissed at them. First they disrespect his wife, and now they kidnap him. Tur and the others insist that Nak is a ghost. But Mac says he's looked between his legs and saw nothing out of the ordinary. Tired of them, he walks away to go home. The four friends are baffled. If he did look between his legs, then how did he not see anything? They decide to follow him, and that's when they hear loud moans. To their horror, they see several drops of blood along the way. Then they see Mac doubling over, clutching his chest. His wounds from the war have opened, and he's now in pain. Suddenly, Tur has an epiphany. Mac says he didn't see Nak as a ghost. He also remembers that boat full of corpses of soldiers. What if Mac has already passed away, and his body was actually among those corpses? He clearly said before that whatever happens, he'll return to his wife. And what about the body found in his friend's backyard? It has a ruby ring. Mac doesn't wear it on his injured fingers, but he has it worn around his neck. All this makes Tur think, could it be that Mac is the real ghost? To find the answer, he throws a handful of rice at Mac, which makes him shout in agony. Right there and then, Tur confirms that Mac is the ghost. They leave him behind and go straight to his hut, where Nak is already waiting. Shin still believes she's the ghost, but when he touches her shoulders, she's as real as any of them. It's baffling, because he surely saw her hand stretched. Anyway, they have no time to waste. Puek makes an excuse that Mac is already collecting rations for them, because the war is about to reach their village. Nak is confused about their sudden change of attitude toward her, and even calling her a human. But she gets dang and goes along with them. The five of them ride a boat and travel through the river. As the men row, they discover that the boat is sinking. They throw their things away, the paddles, and Puek even has the nerve to ask Nak if dang is really necessary to bring along. Eventually the water stops coming inside the boat, but they're stuck in the middle of the river. Things get worse when Mac catches up with them. He's furious about them leaving him in the forest, and now they're taking his wife. Puek says Mac shouldn't follow them anymore, because he's already deceased. This statement makes Nak look at them with bafflement. Mac almost reaches them, but he suddenly struggles to swim, due to muscle cramps. Shin thinks a ghost can't drown, so they pull Mac into the boat. He's still annoyed at his friends for calling him a ghost. Tur says it's because he reacted violently when holy rice was thrown at him earlier. Mac answers that it's only natural to scream when rice strikes your wound. This is the second time Tur is wrong in his assumption. But they're back to their problem about the boat sinking. Tur has another epiphany. If both Nak and Mac are not ghosts, then who is? Whose body is it buried behind Mac's hut? As if to answer his question, a ruby ring falls out from E's pocket. Tur suddenly realizes something. Could his assumption be right this time? That E is the real ghost. He unceremoniously kicks his friend out of the boat. This stops their sinking, but they remain stuck in the middle of the river. Out of nowhere, Nak hands them one of the paddles. This makes Tur stop and think again. Suddenly, he stands up and looks between his legs. But all he sees are the faces of his friends. Annoyed, he starts singing their war song, until all of them join and put their heads down. That's when the truth is finally revealed. That Nak is the actual ghost. She reaches out to him, her long arms resting on each of their shoulders. Terrified, they all jump out of the boat, leaving her there. Puek hits Mak on the head to stop him from returning to his wife. Then they all carry him and go to the village. They seek refuge inside a holy temple. A monk is there with them, poised in a prayer in an attempt to protect them. Holy threads surround them, and all candles are lit. Puek feels something dripping onto his face. To their relief, it's only a leak on the roof. But their relief is replaced by terror as the temple's doors open, revealing an angry Nak. The monk asks for the holy water, just as Mak wakes up from getting hit in the head. The monk whisks holy water onto Nak like a whip, making her scream in pain. Because Mak keeps resisting his friends, he accidentally upends the bowl of holy water. The monk is undeterred. He asks for holy rice, but Shin has already fed it to the birds. Then Mak accidentally kicks the monk, pushing him right into Nak's feet. A strong gust of wind suddenly blows, almost blowing out all the candles. When the light has returned, Mak, Tur, Puek, and Shin find themselves entangled within the thread. The monk leaves them to their plight. Mak is still struggling to go to his wife. Through sheer effort, the three other men pull themselves towards the other door. However, waiting there is E. Surrounded by two ghosts, the men scream for their lives. Tur gets an idea to push Puek towards E, since he's still doused in holy water. That would have been a good plan, if E is indeed a ghost. But what happens is that Puek gets released from being entangled, falls onto E, and kisses him. Everyone gets up. Puek demands to know why E isn't affected by the holy water. E explains that he's not a ghost, and the only reason he has the ring is because he plans to pawn it for money. Now that they've cleared things up, it's now time to face Nak. But she's nowhere to be seen. Puek feels the drip on his face again. He thinks it's the leaking roof, but when he looks up, he finds out he's wrong. Because upside down above them is Nak. And she's annoyed with them. Tur and others keep accusing Nak of going after Auntie Preek because she pissed her off. But Nak angrily clarifies that she has nothing to do with it. It's because Auntie Preek was drunk that she lost balance and fell into the river. She claims they keep getting in the way when all she wants is to be with her husband. But the men are firm that Nak shouldn't be here anymore. She's already passed away, therefore she should stay in the afterlife, where she belongs. The living and the deceased don't belong together. Frustrated, Nak screams. If she can't be with Mak in this world, then he must come with her to her world. And with that, she stretches her arm to reach out for him. Mak is so scared, but he loves his wife so much, he stays still to let her reach him. That's when Nak realizes her selfishness. She knows he's scared of ghosts, and she's definitely scaring him. Mak finally reveals that he's known all along about her. He may be an idiot, but he's not a complete fool. The night they played charades, he looked between his legs and found the truth. He also checked their backyard to confirm the body. In his grief, he hugged the corpse, understanding that his beloved wife is really gone. Despite this, he's still willing to be with her. He does his best to overcome his fear of ghosts just to be with her, because he's not yet ready to let her go. Nak, accepting the fact that she's not of this world anymore, repeats that they can't be together. It's unnatural. If that's the case, Mak says, then their love is a freak of nature. He's done everything to come back and be with her. In a way, Nak also did the same thing. In that case, how is it unnatural to love someone this much? He will always love her, even when they come together in the afterlife. He walks towards his wife and kisses her, knowing that their love will stand the test of time and the challenges of their very nature. But perhaps she should avoid hanging upside down again like earlier, for Mak's peace of mind. And so, in some form of twisted fate, Nak is allowed to stay with Mak. Of course, the villagers are not happy about it. But what can they do? They're afraid of Nak. The couple live happily along with their friends, who have accepted that they can live in harmony with the ghost.